Hello and welcome back to All Watch What They're Watching, where we're curious and adamant about cinema. I'm one of your hosts here. I'm Kiri.
And I'm Adam.
And today we're going to talk a little bit about the things that we've seen. Adam had the great pleasure of seeing the new SpongeBob movie, which I'm sure he's going to tell us all about. And then we both had the chance to see Marty Supreme. And I went down a little Avatar rabbit hole, so we'll kind of get into that, as well as just, a good old-fashioned year-end review, kind of talk about some of our favorites, some things that didn't land as well, all that good stuff. Anything to add to that,
Yeah,
Adam?
and this won't be the first time we talk through this in this amount. It's kind of what the first couple of months will look like, just because Oscar season.
22nd of January is the confirmed date for nominees.
Perfect. So 22nd of January, we'll obviously have a lot to say about that. And then we will have a lot of episodes on the Oscars. So I do have the goal, like I've mentioned a few times, to watch all of them. I think I was trying to knock out a lot of them to official calendar year 2025 to close out. Yeah, it'll be a good discussion, at least today, just to kind of get a start, and maybe even a little bit too without some of those other ones. This is an interesting conversation of what were the movies that we sought out, maybe without, obviously we're influenced by a lot of other factors, but what were the movies that maybe piqued our interest that we actually saw this year before Oscar nominees come out. So I'm excited, but again, this won't be the only conversation that we're having about 2025 movies, which I think overall was a pretty good year.
Yeah, I think I would have to agree. Yes. I will say none of the movies I've seen that came out in 2020 did crack a 5-star. I've got some 4.5s. But that was one thing as I was kind of looking at my tops. I was like, oh, not a 1 cracked 5 stars for me. So we'll see. I also, as I was looking through, I was like, oh, I didn't see nearly as many this year as I wanted to. So I will also have to kind of log some ones that I hadn't logged. And yeah, do a little bit of catch up over the next month or so. But yeah, it'll be
interesting that you said that. So I have 3 5 stars this year, and I have 2 5 stars last year.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it'll be, we'll have to, sometime soon, maybe we'll have to do, 5 years through this decade. So maybe that's a good time to kind of review top 10 of the 2020s.
Like a half decade. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll have to review
that could be a fun thing to do for sure.
Because I was looking at my list, sorry, we'll get into it later, but I was looking at my list and I was like, oh, you know what? These top 5, I all feel like are really, really good films that I'm going to be returning to a lot. And so I think that was like, yeah, this has been a really good year overall. And even my top, 20 or so, I feel like we're all pretty quality. But anyways, yeah, we'll talk more about it.
Yeah, for sure. But Adam, I am dying to hear all about SpongeBob.
Yes, SpongeBob was the natural selection of a movie to see. What was it? 2 days after Christmas with our family. Good release strategy, I guess, right? That was the thing to go see. I guess you could, Zootopia 2 released about a month earlier, so I would assume most people had seen it by the time the Christmas movies came around. So props to Paramount. That was a good release strategy to at least get me to the movie, right? So I think the animation style, I'll start, was really kind of interesting. It almost was like it was claymation, but it wasn't, right? It was 3D computer generated. And I did think that was really interesting because I'm like, if they had taken that step and they had made it claymation, which you can do that. You can make a clay everything, SpongeBob, Patrick, everything pretty easily. I think that would have been really, really interesting for something that they could or should do. Now, is Paramount or Nickelodeon perhaps the most anxious to do that right now? Probably not, when they can release this movie and it's probably going to make them enough money that they need to do it. So that was interesting. And I think the first 20 minutes of the movie, maybe it's just the excitement of being there. Maybe it's the Ninja Turtles short that was before it that I'll get into it that got us excited. But like the first 20 minutes of the movie, I was engaged and I was excited and watching SpongeBob as a kid, and happy with that. And so I think the first 20 minutes of just sort of, I'll get distracted a little bit here. Sometimes when I'm watching a movie, I love when it is just the life of the people going on and the big, like, cataclysmic event hasn't happened. Like Harry Potter, right? I love when they're just at school, they're just doing their thing. I'm like, yeah, this is great. So sometimes I just feel like when the actual plot is introduced, I'm like, oh, okay, I missed the times when we were just doing the regular stuffs. Maybe that's some of it here. It was kind of fun without any of the plot things going on. But once that all kind of started and they eventually go on this trip with the Flying Dutchman, like into the underworld, and SpongeBob has to compete in all these, tasks or event or whatever. And by that point, it just wasn't that exciting. Probably the highest clip of butt jokes per second of any movie released last year,
Great.
which,
I don't know. Did
it
you see
can,
Minecraft?
there's a time and a place, I think, but a lot does wear thin pretty quickly. The other thing, so I didn't realize this, and I know you told me, but it just didn't register until after the movie, and I heard my sister-in-law say something. Mark Hamill's in it, right? And these SpongeBob movies will do kind of the funny thing where it turns into real life as well without the animation. And Mark Hamill has this prosthetic nose that was genuinely horrifying. Like, just the worst thing I've ever seen, that it's just like every second that it's on the screen and he's on the screen, I'm just recoiling. Like, I can't watch this. This is not, I don't like this. So overall, I did not like the movie.
No.
I can't remember if it's a 2 or a low 2.5. So again, there were some things that were fine and funny, but like I mentioned, there was the short beforehand that was the Ninja Turtles, and really, really great. There was this like AI machine that was creating knockoff Ninja Turtle toys, and so they have to go and it's a bunch of AI stuff at them. And I think it's a really good message. I think especially for kids too, just to be like, yeah, with art and with creating things, you do have to be careful and you have to be aware of sort of what you're putting in and what's coming out. And so I really appreciated that. That did almost make up for the amount of butt jokes in SpongeBob, but alas, here we are. So it was, I love going to the movies.
Alas,
I'm never gonna say no, but SpongeBob could test your patience for sure.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I saw a couple of those this past year as well. So
yeah. Well, I know you went on quite the journey into Pandora, right? That's what it's called.
I sure did, yes.
It's funny because as you start getting into this, I just feel like every single thing about Avatar, anytime I hear anything about the plot or a character, it is as if I'm hearing it for the first time. And I have seen the first 2 movies. We were talking about one character in particular that when he shows up in 2, I'm like, I swear he died. And then in the third one, I saw the commercials and I'm like, didn't he die in the second one? So I won't...
Do you know who
won't
it
spoil
is?
it. That the Colonel guy you mentioned.
Okay, yeah.
I was like, how did he?
He did not die in the so that's he doesn't.
You don't
die
have
in
to
the
start
second.
there.
Like it's pretty clear by the end. Yeah. I'll go into it. I will say this: big spoilers for the first 2. Because I feel like if you have not seen them at this point, that's on you. That's not my fault. Fire and Ash, I will be moderately vague because I do, other than what's in the trailers, because I don't want to reveal too much because I freaking loved Fire and Ash. But yeah, I'm going in pretty hot and heavy with spoilers for the first 2 because, I mean, the first one at this point is 17 years old. So the first Avatar, I've only seen it once, probably back in like 2009, remembered pretty much nothing. So went into it, like, gorgeous visuals, which I remembered. Like, I remember that's, that was what put Avatar on the map, as people were like, holy crap, how are we doing this? Like, how is technology doing this? So, and honestly, they still hold up pretty darn well. For being 17 years later, I was like, dang, you can tell it's mocap, you can tell it's CGI, but it looks good.
Yeah, if I could jump in just really quick anecdote. James Cameron was working with, is it Fox that produces these, or Warner Bros, or who
This one
does
was
Avatar?
20th Century. No,
Okay, it's
because
Fox. Yeah.
Disney
No?
owns it, so I think it's Fox or 20th Century. Yeah,
Okay, I think it is
20th
Fox.
Century
But
Fox.
anyways, he was developing a project with them for a long time, and he convinced Fox to give him $10 million in 1 year just to develop technology as a proof of concept for something that they could do. So again, when you talk about the visuals, and that's always what people talk about with this, there's a reason for that, is it is so deliberate to make something that nobody has ever seen before at a movie, which I think is
For
comes
sure.
comes across for sure. I'll give credit there.
Yeah, for sure. As far as plot and characters, so the lead, Jake Sully, he's boring. He's the most boring part of the movie. I think that works because everything else is so overwhelming. Like this new world, the animals there, the people there, this new culture. So I think having your kind of straight man who's just sort of like I'm trying to think of the right word. Like the vessel that is allowing you to travel through this world. I think that works for him to kind of be super, super boring, super, super milquetoast, because we don't need him to be interesting. Everything else is interesting. I do think as far as characters, Neytiri is the best, which that was one of my complaints about Way of Water, is I think Zoe Saldana does a beautiful job with her. I think she's funny. I think she's clever. She's sassy. She's a warrior. I think she also embraces what's wonderful about womanhood. I think that she is not, and James Cameron historically has strong female characters. I mean, from Titanic to Terminator to Aliens. I thought every single thing about every time she was on screen, I feel like she's a very compelling screen presence. I felt like the screen just lights up when she's on it. And I dug the plot. Like, I've had people before be like, it's Dances with Wolves. Yeah, it is. Part of me is also like, who cares? It's a good story. Like, yeah, I've seen it before, but it's really fun kind of see him learn. Again, he is this vessel for which we are using to explore this world. It's fun seeing him learn the culture, learn the language, learn these people, learn their religion, and how kind of just the way they go through life. That's fun for me. I was here for it. I was like, this is really cool. And then I just started kind of getting to a point. So it's when the Colonel like destroys their home. It's before, because the final battle is when he wants to go destroy their like holy sanctuary with this really holy tree. But before he destroys like their mountain home area. And he destroys their mountain home area, and I paused the movie and I was like, we have an hour left. What are you going to do for this last hour, my friend? Because I thought this was the main battle, but it's over. And so right then, that was the point where I texted you and I was like, I don't know about this. And then like 5 minutes later, things started happening and I was like, oh yeah, I'm back in. I'm on board. This is freaking fantastic. This is cool. When Jake decides he goes to the people, and then he to kind of like gain their respect, he becomes Torak Maktu, which is he basically bonds himself to this like sky monster thing to get the people's respect so that he can tell them this is what we're gonna do. I just dug it. It finished and I was like, yeah, I'm into this. I'm totally into this. And I really expected, I went into this pretty jaded. Like I was like, I'm gonna try to have an open mind, but I remember not being impressed with the first Avatar, and we'll see. And let's go in, but I am not expecting much. I'm like, this is 3 freaking hours long. I am not expecting much out of this thing. And then as it kept going, I was like, I think I'm into it. I think I'm kind of into it. And then the movie, like, wrapping up at the end, I was like, I'm into this thing. I like this thing a lot. So wrapped up the first Avatar with 4.5 stars for the first film. I really, really dug it. I thought it was beautiful to watch, would watch it again. I thought the characters were fun. Like the characters, again, who weren't Jake were fun. I liked Sigourney Weaver's character. I had a killer time with this movie. Okay, Way of Water. Way of Water. Now, Way of Water, I had high expectations for because I know people who didn't like the first one who liked the second or who liked it more that was my impression. And then I went and I looked at my Letterboxd reviews and I was like, the people who didn't like Avatar as much really didn't like Way of Water. The people who liked Avatar liked Way of Water. So I was like, great, I think I'm gonna like this thing. I did not really like this thing. It's like my note, I just wrote better visuals, worse story. And true, like better visuals. The first one, like I said, it's still, you can tell it's mocap, you can tell it's CGI. This one, I was just like, this looks amazing. This looks like makeup. Like this looks really freaking good, down to just like wrinkles in the forehead and around the eyes. Like the attention to detail was really, really just on the money. And I mean, James Cameron knows how to do stuff in water. That is what he does. That is his thing with The Abyss and Titanic and now this. So, I mean, yeah, the underwater scenes look fantastic. The story is rough. I think it's a very weak plot device for Jake to be like, so yes, spoiler alert, the Colonel does die at the end of Avatar. He comes back. Not really comes back. There is an avatar created for him, and it is given his memories and so on and so forth. So there is kind of this avatar clone version of the Colonel that shows up in this one. And so he's after Jake, and Jake's like, to protect my people, like I gotta go far away. So he goes to the water people, which I'm just like, I don't know, it's a weak plot device to me. I feel like it was literally just there to be like, well, we gotta hop our way through the elements, so we've done the forest thing, now we gotta go do the water thing. And then they get there and they're like, down to some of the dialogue. Because Neytiri in the first one calls Jake like, you're like a baby, you're a clumsy moron. They use almost that same verbiage when they go to the island people, and the island people are like, or the reef people, I think they're called. They're like, okay, you're gonna have to learn all these things. You're like a baby. And I was just like, we did this. So I don't know. I just, by the second hour or two, I was just like, I'm bored out of my mind. Didn't terribly care about the kids until the end, and then by the end I was like, oh, okay, I'm kind of on board with the kids. But like some of the kids' storylines, I was just like, I don't care. Like, I am here for Jake and Neytiri. And then they did Neytiri dirty, man. She's not in a lot of it. They did nothing to develop her character. I felt like she was exactly the same. The parts about her, like the scenes with her in it, were just sort of bland. Those first 2 hours were rough. That last hour, on the other hand, was fan-freaking-tastic. It was sort of Titanic meets Avatar, and the battle sequences were 10 out of 10, and I had so much fun watching, and there was, I don't want to say high stakes, there were very personal high stakes. Like, it wasn't like the earth is in danger, but it was like Jake Sully's kids are in danger, and at that point I was on board with them. So, yeah, that last hour was when I was definitely much more a part of it. I was enjoying what was happening, and yeah, the Colonel guy doesn't die. His son, Spider, saves him, which that was frustrating to me. I was like, you thought he was dead.
I've seen this movie, and I was telling you,
Ash, though, so we'll see.
Yeah. I was texting you about this. I've seen this movie. I've seen at least the first Avatar at least once and a half. I couldn't tell you a single thing that goes on, and I think a lot of how you described the second movie of redundant and rehashing plot points from the first one and those things and that forth. I think those are some of the feelings that I feel when I try to watch one. Is I've already seen this, or like even now I've seen Aliens, and so I've seen The Loader, and so I watch Avatar now, and I'm like, okay, I've already seen this in Aliens, so this is I just as a counter, and maybe I'm not giving it enough credit. I did try when Way of Water came out to rewatch it, but I am happy that you loved Avatar 1, and I understand your frustrations with 2. I just don't have any interest at all in revisiting, but maybe you can convince me with how 3 went.
Yeah, and that's fine. My family's kind of in the same boat. I have friends who are in the same boat who are basically like, why would I give this thing more of my time and money? Whatever, it's run of the mill, it is what it is. It's this big sensation. Okay, I don't care. And I get that. Like I said, I thought that final hour, I was like, oh yeah, this is good. This is good stuff right here. But yeah, those first 2 hours, it got to a point in that second hour where I was just like, I'm bored. I'm so bored. I don't care. But I did dig that final hour. Another thing that I've been mulling over, and I kind of heard this on a podcast, and I've been mulling it over as I've been watching. I think the score struggles a little bit,
Interesting.
particularly in the second. And because James Horner does the first one, who also did Titanic, and I feel like everyone knows those themes.
Yeah.
Titanic, the da 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 da, like everyone knows it. You don't have to see the movie and you know what it's from. I don't feel like you have that with Avatar. I kind of feel like I wish it had some sort of sweeping theme that stuck in your head, and I don't feel like it does.
Yeah, it feels like generic music you hear when you're waiting in line at Disneyland for like Indiana Jones, or like like you're at a theme park and it's like you're in one of those mystic places.
Mhm.
It just feels like that kind of generic music.
And, like, the music is nice, it's serviceable, but for something that is this big, sweeping sci-fi fantasy epic that's, now this series, I'm just like, I expect better. And so I'm like, you know how to do this. Why aren't you doing... Anyway.
Yeah.
So the second one, I'm kind of waffling back and forth. I think I did land on a 3 just because that final hour did a lot to get me back in the game. Fire and Ash. I freaking loved this film. I loved it so much. I am willing to concede a few things on this first. Could be a recency bias thing. That being said, I have seen all 3 of these, and I don't remember the first at all, so I'm watching these. These are all new to me. So it could be recency bias. Could be that finished the first Avatar and was like, Way of Water is going to be even better, and then Way of Water disappointed me. So I tempered my expectations, and I was like, Fire and Ash is probably going to be sort of meh again then. So that's one thing, is I went in with very mid expectations. I also got to see this one 3D IMAX, and holy crap, that is the way to see this movie. I would say if you have any interest in seeing this movie at all. Any at all. Most movies, I'm the type of person that I'm like, if I'm not interested, I'm like, I'll wait for it to come streaming or on video. I can rent it for a few bucks. Don't. If you have any interest in seeing this movie at all, chill out the $25 or whatever, see it in IMAX, see it in 3D, because it's amazing. Like, there were moments I just felt like my mouth was open and I was just scanning the screen trying to take it all in. Like, it is spectacular. So, just a few caveats. I had very tempered expectations, and I did see it in the best way you can see a film. So that could have impacted my viewing experience. But I had a friend I was talking to on Discord who was like, makes sense that, like, this one is more plot dense, and I am a fan. Like, I put some stock in plot and story, so that worked for me. Because it has, like, right from the get-go, there's some story stuff. There are some similar beats. The fight at the end, I was basically kind of like, we're taking a lot from the final hour of Way of Water, and we're taking a good chunk from the end of the first one. I don't care, because it looked really good, and it was a lot of fun. But the whole thing is just, like, the fire people are really freaking cool. And I didn't know this, and I don't feel like this is a huge spoiler, because maybe I just wasn't paying enough attention in the trailers. The fire people are not the good guys. They are antagonists. They are almost like, I don't want to say like voodoo or like mystical, because everyone else on this island believes in Awa, like the Great Mother. The fire chieftain lady is basically like, Awa abandoned my people when we like died in a volcano fire thing. So she was like, I learned that the only thing that has like the true power in this world is fire. And so she kind of leans into that, and like, she's creepy, and there is like a lot of mysticism, like, I think in a good way. It's paying homage to some really cool stuff. But yeah, they 100% are the antagonists, are a group of antagonists. But yeah, much more plot heavy. You get more into some of the family dynamics of the Sully family. Kiri definitely takes front and center. There's one sequence where the entire time I was like, you can hear it in my voice, I'm almost giddy. I was just like, yes, this is what I came for. Like, there was a sequence where I was like, am I going to give this movie 5 stars? Holy crap, am I going to give this movie 5 stars? A couple reasons are keeping me from that, but I might change my mind on a subsequent viewing.
Critics were pretty united in that they felt like this third movie really was just a rehash of the first two. How would you respond to that?
Don't know that I agree. like I said, there were plot beats that were similar. It's still the Colonel trying to, having a personal vendetta against Jake. It's still him kind of having some feelings for his son Spider and trying to figure out what to do with that. There's, in both 2 and 3 at one point, so I don't feel like this is a huge spoiler, Spider gets captured by the Sky People.
Mm-hmm.
There is, again, just still some plot points with Jake's family too. I was kind of surprised because I've heard a lot of that too. Is just like, oh, it's a rehash of the first 2 movies, and I was like, I feel like Way of Water. Like, I'm just like, did you not see Way of Water? Because Way of Water was exactly that, but it was boring as hell. This one was exciting.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. There was just more about it that I was into. Like I said, you have a moment where the climax, essentially the last 45 minutes, an hour, is almost like a lot of the end of Way of Water. But also the end of Way of Water is amazing, so who cares? And there was parts of it too where I was like, oh yeah, that's recalling stuff from the first. So I don't know, because I've heard the same thing. I'm a little confused by that, simply because it didn't feel like a beat-for-beat remake, where, like I said, there was even, like, verbiage and stuff in Way of Water where I was like, this is the same thing. Who cares? This one, I didn't. Like, there was, I don't know, maybe it was just, I really loved I thought the Ash people were so cool. I thought that there was some interesting perspective from some of the humans in this one. The point of these movies is the Colonel is trying to get Jake, and Jake is trying to create like a freed, beautiful Pandora. That is the point of all 3 movies.
Sure.
Mixed with a little like Jake is trying to save his family. But like that's pretty much what it is. So as far as that, yeah. The Colonel's trying to kill Jake. Jake is trying to save Pandora. That's it. I just loved I don't know, maybe, and again, maybe it was just that I had really tempered expectations, and this one I was like, holy crap, I'm having so much fun. Maybe it was just the visual, like, awe-inspiring, just assault on my eyes, assault in such a good way on my eyes and my senses, that I was just like, this is great. I mean, when this is what IMAX does too that I love. When there's certain sounds that subwoofer comes through, and when I can feel my heart vibrating in my chest, I'm like, yes, this is what I'm here for. Again, could be a few things. I really didn't feel like it was as much of a rehash. I had so much fun with this one. I wish you had seen it, because there's one sequence with Neytiri where I was just like, this is so freaking cool. This is the Neytiri I've wanted to see. Like, yes, this is what I'm here for. Yeah. There was,
well,
I liked it. I had a blast.
I'll probably end up going to go see it before, Oscars, because it'll be nominated for a few things, and won't spoil anything, but we'll do some predictions. But I don't know. It just doesn't move the needle for me.
It's okay. It's okay. I settled on 4.5 for this one, but I am borderline 5. I loved this thing so much.
Wow.
So anyway, let's Fire and Ash.
Good to hear. Great to hear. In great detail. I always appreciate. That's what, we like movies, and we should rightfully talk all about why we like movies when we like them. So I appreciate all of that. Moving on.
You saw Sentimental Value, correct?
Yes, I did. Sentimental Value is a movie I have been wanting to see for a very long time, but it's been very hard to see. It was one that has been solidly in Oscar conversations for a while. I apologize for all the names. They are Norwegian, I believe. So it's directed by, forgive me, Joachim Trier, something. And so it is essentially Stellan Skarsgård plays a director, and he's estranged from his family, and he is trying to make a movie, and he wants one of his daughters who's a play actress to play a part in it. And so it just kind of unfolds a lot of those various dynamics associated with that. Elle Fanning is kind of this upstart American actress that he gets to know and starts bringing her along. And so more dynamics, obviously, and really emotional, really engaging, really has a lot to say. I think there's a Letterboxd review that describes it very, very well, that it is J. Kelly for adults. So it does feel,
Okay.
obviously that's not a one-for-one exact comparison, but it does feel very accurate as far as similar beats of sort of this person in the film industry and them reflecting on their personal life versus their career and kind of what their legacy looks like. And that's essentially what both of these movies are wrestling with a lot. I won't say too much more about it because I do think this is a movie people should be interested in seeing. I think I spent $10 or $15 to rent it because I've been so anxious to see this, but I imagine it will get onto some sort of streaming service in the next few months. So I encourage people to seek that out. But I do want to take an opportunity to, this obviously has been nagging at me for a while. And it's something you hear a lot, but it's about Oscar bait. Obviously, we'll get into the award season, and Oscar bait is something that comes around a lot. And I think, I think there's some good examples of how to define Oscar bait. For me, Oscar bait is typically a movie that when you watch it, you kind of have this feeling of, oh, the Academy members are going to love this. They're just going to eat this up. So a musical biopic is a really good example. I think another really good example is The Fabelmans, which is Steven Spielberg sort of reflection on his life in this. And what I mean by that is like movies that are about movies, I feel like are often
I was
categorized.
Really about to use that exact phrase.
I think they are categorized, and I think they're a good definition for Oscar bait. I also want to say I don't think Oscar bait is always bad. There's also things
agree.
Maestro from a few years ago, Bradley Cooper, where everyone was just kind of like, oh, this is a movie Bradley Cooper made because Bradley Cooper wants to get an Oscar. I'm not sure he actually cares that much about this person. I say all that to say Sing Sing is not Oscar bait. And I had to go back to that and say, I do not think it falls in that definition by any means, although I understand it's a movie that I think Oscar voters typically would have liked. But is it a movie made for getting Oscars? Absolutely not. Humble opinion.
Okay.
So obviously, obviously, I haven't let that go, and I had to bring it back up. And I think that sentimental value in J. Kelly.
Our first episode we recorded.
Yeah, it wasn't the first, but it was up there. Sentimental Value and J. Kelly, I feel like, are this year's. There was Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere, but that one has been dead for a while. So will be kind of interesting to see how each of those play. But again, movies about movies feels like the Oscar voters really, really love that.
Yes. Yep, they do, for sure. We also both saw Marty Supreme, which has kind of been a hot Oscar title. I'll let you kind of talk about it first, because I know that you did like it more than me. I liked it. You loved it. So I'll let you kind of take the lead, and then I'll just give a few thoughts at the end. Yeah,
I've been thinking a lot about why this movie really worked for me. I think, first of all, I do really like Timothée Chalamet. I like everything I've seen him in. As early as Beautiful Boy. Allie and I watched that a couple of years back. It's with Steve Carell. I really think that movie is, I'll say, very impactful, I think, for sort of looking at that in some different ways. But I think he was great in that, and I think he's been great in everything. He's been great in Dune. And so when we talk about Marty Supreme, I think that's where it starts, at least, right? This is a Timothée Chalamet movie where he is in it 99% of the time. I don't think there's a time when he's not in it. And so that alone, I think, really works well for me. I think for anyone who doesn't know anything about this movie, Marty Supreme is a table tennis player, and short summary is that he will do anything possible to achieve his dream of being the number one table tennis player in the world. And that definition of he will do anything rapidly deteriorates into shenanigans and wild things. So I think that
I tried to describe it to people, because I was just like, it's very anxiety inducing. It's stressful. I was like, imagine a comedy of errors without the comedy.
Sure.
Like, it's just everything
Yeah.
that can go wrong will go wrong, and the character
Yes.
has to figure out a way to dig himself out. Yeah.
It's not a movie that will work for everybody. I don't get it. It worked perfect for me, but it won't work for everybody. So I think that alone, those two aspects. But what I was saying is that the whole table tennis thing gives these moments that are very like sports movie-esque, of some great sports action scenes, some great triumphs, some great failures. So everything about that I was all about. And I think what really set this over the top is the music. The music is very 80s. A lot of the needle drops are 80s songs, or late 70s, early 80s, maybe into the 90s. Don't fact check me, anybody. It's, that time period, whatever. And I think this movie being set in the 50s and the music being in the 80s, and it feeling somewhat like a biopic, but it not being a biopic, creates this sense as you're watching of just like timelessness, that a lot of the things that he's struggling against could be struggling against in basically any period in time in history, and you feel like it resonates with kind of the human soul and human connection. And so I think all of that really works well for me. The performances, the storyline, the music, all the technical things coming together. And then we don't have to get too spoilery into the ending of it, but I think there's multiple ways you can interpret how it ends. And for me, it was this very sort of hopeful kind of understanding of the character's role in the world, and kind of where he has put his priorities over the course of the movie, and kind of a refocus into reality of realizing that his life is so much more than what he has been pursuing this whole time. And so I think that resonated with me and was something that the needle drops, some of always look back to this movie as two of my favorite needle drops, and that I can think of in for a while. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I would say the same thing. Chalamet, I would be super surprised if Chalamet doesn't win. I think he's going to walk away with this one. I think we've still got.
I'll push back just a tiny bit. I want him to win. I think he can win. I think he's been a lot of people been mad about his campaign. But after seeing the movie, it is obviously just an entire thing of playing his character in real life as this kind of meta thing of looking at this awards race. I think, again, we talk about Oscar bait, we talk about what the Academy likes. I don't know. I think there is potential. I think he could win. I'm hopeful he wins. I think he is at least the favorite or close to the favorite, but I wouldn't lock him in yet.
I think there's going to be some that come close, but I think he's going to win. This film didn't completely work for me. Like I said, I liked it. I understand your point with the music. It didn't work I felt like it was out of place.
Sure.
Personally. That doesn't mean I'm right. That is just my opinion. The ending is ambiguous, and I like ambiguous endings. I think one thought on it, I guess, is I really didn't know what he could possibly be thinking. And as I've been mulling that over, I don't know that for a movie where he is in it so much, and I feel like he acted it so well, I still don't know if I fully got to know who Marty is as a person, besides insane drive for his sport and his passion. Because the ending is ambiguous, again, which I like, but I sat there being like, is this just coming down from the high of what happened shortly before this? I don't want to give spoilers. This is coming down from the high of finally achieving what he wants. Is this him recognizing that isn't as important now that he's faced with this thing? Is he realizing what's really important in life? Is he... I couldn't quite put my finger on it, and I felt like that was less of the director... I think it was part of the director being like, I don't want to reveal it, but it also felt like I couldn't quite put my finger on his character. And I don't quite know I don't know if that's a complaint either. Like, that's kind of the thing, is I've been mulling it over and I'm like, I don't know that that's a gripe, because his whole purpose is to become, the greatest table tennis player in the world. Like, that is his purpose. That is his driving force behind the movie. So I don't know that it's a critique. It's just an observation that I'm still kind of chewing on.
I think there's some characters that we meet along the way that are meant as sort of potential future paths that Marty can take. You have Gwyneth Paltrow's character, who, phenomenal, by the way. I think she'll be nominated, and she has a very good opportunity to win. But you have sort of this, again, anyone that hasn't seen this, Gwyneth Paltrow plays this aging movie star who was popular in like the 30s and 40s, and now it's the 50s. And so she's trying to get this career resurgence through this play that her husband is financing. So it's this whole thing. And so you have this sort of, and she even says to him at one point, I would have done the same thing when Marty does something bad to her, just in
Terrible.
that pursuit of ambition and drive. And so I think that's one aspect of, if that pursuit of greatness overtakes you and has you that your whole life, just like a way you can approach it is you will never be satisfied. You will always be trying to stay relevant and to cling on to that power, which is, I think, represented by that character. And then on the other hand, you have Marty's friend who he beats at the beginning, and it's at the beginning, so whatever, who's just this very happy guy who, suffered through concentration camps, who goes with Marty to tour with the Harlem Globetrotters, and is just like, he was good. He was number one for a time in table tennis, but he's recognized that time has passed. And so he's looking at, how do I take this next part of my life and make something valuable in it? And so I think those two characters are meant to kind of help us to see paths that can be taken. And so I think you're right that the ending is still ambiguous, but it is a moment when he himself has come down and he's acknowledged some real things about his life. And he now is faced with that decision of sort of, which path is he going to take as far as what is important and what is valuable. And again, I do think it is my interpretation a little bit too. I think on the more positive side is that he recognizes that his life is so much more important than what he's been pursuing this whole time, and all that comes with is kind of how I take that. So I don't disagree that I think he is fairly one note for 99.9% of the movie, and that's intentional, in that there are clues given along the way of how we can kind of look at where that ends up in the future, and we kind of get to decide that for ourselves, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. So star ratings, though, you did wind up with 5 stars for this one, did you not?
I did, yeah. Again, really worked for me. Yeah. It was one of my favorites of the year.
Yeah, I gave it 4 stars. Again, I thought it was good. I don't know. May or may not go back to it, but that's kind of where I'm tapping in at Marty Supreme.
Last thing I just want to say real quick is I have seen Uncut Gems, which is by the director and his brother, and I didn't love that. And so again, I've been really thinking about why Marty Supreme worked so well for me, and it goes back to everything I just said, but just an interesting thing I've been kind of thinking about for a while. But sorry to cut you off anyways.
No, you're good. I find that interesting because you're actually the second person to tell me that, who was like, yeah, Uncut Gems I liked, but holy crap, Marty Supreme. So yeah, I mean, over the next few months, like I said, it'll be interesting. We'll be catching up a lot with some of the Oscar nominees, kind of what that's going to look like. So I'm sure we'll be still chatting about 2025, at least here and there over the next few months, just kind of as Oscar season ramps up. We did want to, kind of do just sort of a year-end review type of situation. So Adam, the real MVP over here, kind of wrote out some superlatives, which made my job easy. I just had to go through and see what I wanted to pick as my most disappointing, favorite score, et cetera, et cetera. But I'll let you kick it off.
Yeah, this is kind of funny because as I was going through this, I watched a ton of movies this year, and I realized how many of them are for future podcast episodes, so I'll try to keep those out of this running a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, we have a lot of fun things coming up.
Are we talking about Ghibli?
Yeah, I just wrote down Ghibli for one
Same.
of them. So anyways,
Same.
most disappointing. Let's just get the bad out of the way first, and then we can get to a lot of the good stuff. I told my family, because they saw this movie unprompted without me. Just in this last week, both my brother and my parents separately watched this movie. And my take on it is that I think it will age very well over time, but the timing of when this came out and the expectations is why it struggled. And that movie is Mickey 17. So Mickey 17,
Yes.
I liked it fine. I gave it a 3.5. So, I enjoyed it. There were some moments I liked, but overall, I think it was a disappointment when we are basing it off of, I think, what many expected to be the next movie from director Bong Joon-ho.
Bong Joon-ho, yeah.
Yeah, when he came out with Parasite that sort of set the movie world on storm last time, and many people regard as one of the best movies of the entire 21st century. And so I think that's where, over time, I think it is better. There were also some things that I critiqued at the time, like there's this very big caricature of a fascist dictator, and when I saw this, I was like, oh, this is like real life, and I don't necessarily want my satire to be so close to home that it's literally like a ripoff of what I look at on the internet like right now. And so I think that was what was really difficult about that movie when I saw it, is all those feelings were very fresh and upfront, to where I think over time, I think it will age well, and it'll be one that you can go back to and be like, oh, there's some really fun performances here. There's some really interesting ideas. And it is sort of, again, just the sci-fi aspects of it's fun. And so I will stand by that. That's my most disappointing, but I will take the optimistic approach that I think for many people, it will age well.
Okay. Mine was interesting because I was like, most disappointing is an interesting one, because it's not like, what is the worst movie of the year? Because, I also saw the live action version of Snow White, but I was like, which movie did I have really, really high hopes for? And then when I saw, it was just kind of like, oh, that wasn't very good. And that was, I talked about this a week or two ago, Scarlet.
Right, yeah.
Really, really wanted this one to do well. Saw the poster, I was like, there is a woman with a sword on the cover. Sign me up, I'm in.
And this is the one by the same director.
Really kind of fell apart.
Same director as Wolf Children.
As Wolf Children.
Right, which we just did an episode on. Right. So we love Wolf Children, so you'd expect this to be...
I love him. Yeah, it just completely fell apart. So I won't belabor the point because I talked about this a couple weeks ago, but Scarlet was just one that I was really, really wanting good things for, really, really excited about. Wanted that to be, the film that I just loved this year, and it just was crap. So
darn.
That's my most disappointing.
All right, next category. Talk to me about your favorite performance or performances from the year.
Yeah, so this one is kind of interesting because there are performances that I think were really impressive, like Timothée Chalamet's, and so there were performances that were good, but as far as which ones did I like, I wrote this last night, and then this morning, I finished Avatar, drove home, ate lunch, and then we started recording, so... At the time, I wrote Michael B. Jordan for Sinners, just because I thought he did a really good job of kind of making these two characters very distinct. These twin brothers, you could definitely tell they were twins. They were in it together, but I felt like you could tell who was who at pretty much any given time. And then when, one of the characters becomes a vampire, that even took on a different... So, he essentially played 3 different characters in this film.
Sure.
Which I just think is really, really impressive. I may also throw Zoe Saldana from Fire and Ash in the ring. Again, recency bias. I just watched it. Let me mull it over. But I really, really loved her in Fire and Ash. But I felt like I had a lot of fun with Michael B. Jordan in Sinners.
That's awesome. I also have Michael B. Jordan on my list. I actually have 6 people on my list, so forgive me. I'm not good always at narrowing down to one thing. I do think this was a kind of a funny year in that regard, though. So I'll start with 3, talk about them in my next 3, because the first 3 are all actors who play dual roles. So you have Michael B. Jordan in Sinners, you have Robert
Okay.
Pattinson in Mickey 17, right? And then you have Dylan O'Brien in Twinless. So each of those characters plays, Robert Pattinson's obviously playing a bunch of his clones, which is kind of fun. And you get a lot of different sort of nuances there. And then there's two at once and everything. So it's just fun to see all of that. And Dylan O'Brien, I'm really excited for you to see Twinless and for other people to see Twinless.
I
It
know,
is
yeah.
incredible how he pulls these two performances off. They are very, very distinctly different, but I think both are really respectable to the stereotypes isn't the right word, but sort of the identities that both characters he's playing and sort of those who he represents in real life for each of those characters, I think is a very like modern and mature way to do it. And it's really a bummer that he wouldn't have any sort of talks during award season. If it were a bigger studio, bigger backing, I think you definitely could make a case into at least the conversations. So again, twin year, I guess, is fun for those three. And then I also did want to shout out Eva Victor, who is the writer-director star of Sorry Baby. Her performance is one that is also, I'd say, nuanced to sort of the situations that she's representing. But the way that she turns on a dime from humor to tragedy to moving forward or moving back, like it's just a really, really well constructed performance. Anyone that hasn't seen Sorry Baby, again, I mentioned a while ago, I went into it blind. Don't go in blind, but do seek out this movie. It's very, very well put together. She and James Sweeney are both ones. James Sweeney with Twinless, who wrote, directed, starred, and Eva Victor, Sorry Baby, wrote, directed, starred. Both of them are young, talented people that I just cannot wait for whatever they do next, and I will be first in line to see whatever they do next. And it's really fun for me as, I'm sort of new into the cinephile ranks and sort of developing my taste and all those different things. So it's really fun for me when I find someone like that where I'm like, yes, I cannot wait to kind of watch that career progress and to be there to see all those things. I do have two more. So do you have any more as I've been talking? Feel free to share when I'm done.
Go for it.
The next one is Tim Key, who stars in The Ballad of Wallace Island. This is another, similar to what I just said about Eva Victor, another performance that switches between the comedic and the serious drama very, very well. I think in this case, especially, Tim Key is like the whole time you can feel this underlying sort of sadness with the character, but also this like very enthusiastic optimism about life that is just fun to watch and to see. Anyone that hasn't seen The Ballad of Wallace Island, again, just a very lovely movie, and I think he's what makes it work so, so well. And then my last one is Ethan Hawke in Blue Moon, one of those that just transforms into the character. That movie is one that the writing is so sharp and that it feels almost like a play at times, the way they're just delivering lines so rapidly. But yeah, Ethan Hawke just feels really, really embodies that character and really brings it to life in a way that I think deserves to be recognized. And he is actually, I would actually probably pick him over Timothée Chalamet right now, if I'm honest with myself. I mean, I love Timothée Chalamet, but I think this performance is really, really good. So those are my performances. You're free to share whatever else you want to as I cheat and pick more than one thing.
No, it's fine. I'm drawing a little bit of a blank. And I did not watch nearly as many recent releases as you. So I am happy sticking with my Michael B. Jordan, Zoe Saldana pairing. But this next one I have a little bit more to talk about. Favorite theater experience was one that you gave, which I was so happy that you that you put that one. I will definitely, like, this one is one that I had a few. I mean, Fire and Ash is obviously going to have to be in the conversation. There's a movie, my number one movie of the year, which when we get there, that's in the conversation. But I don't know if anything can really top this. I got to see Princess Mononoke when it came out. It did an IMAX release. It had a 4K restoration. I had never seen this movie before. So, never seen it. Walked in. Packed theater, IMAX, okay, like this screen is huge, this theater is huge, everyone in it is excited to be here, everyone in it is happy to see this film. I was transported, like completely lost in this story, in this message, it is a once in a lifetime movie experience. Like I was talking to my dad about it and I was like, it's right up there with like, the first time I saw Lord of the Rings with my dad. Like I don't even completely have the words to describe how I felt. It is one of those movies that like, the way I've said it to people is so many times I got like emotional, but didn't actually like start crying. And then I sat there just during the credits. And at one point during the credits, the kind of main theme just sort of swells into this crescendo. And I was so overcome. I just sat there and just wept. And I cried all the way home thinking about it. And it was one of those movies that I've said this before, and I'll probably say this a handful of times with Ghibli's. I wasn't crying because I was sad. I wasn't crying because I was happy. I was just feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Like I knew that I was feeling something and I was just lost in it. And like, the best way I can describe the emotions that I was feeling was like, I was just so like grateful to see it. Like that's the best way I can describe it is I was just overcome with like, I am so overwhelmed that such a beautiful thing exists. And I am so grateful that I got to see this beautiful thing. So that was my favorite theater experience. Again, kind of almost like a once in a lifetime experience for me. That was unreal for me. So like I said, there are other movies in the conversation for sure, but Princess Mononoke IMAX 4K restoration was that it takes the cake. There's nothing even in that even compares.
I can feel the passion. I can feel it myself. I got chills at one point as you were talking about it. And I think that is probably when you first told me that a few months ago. We hadn't started the Studio Ghibli journey yet. But now that I am dwindling to the end of mine with just a few more movies to watch,
Yeah.
I don't say this lightly, that Studio Ghibli is genuinely life-changing. Like, it is just the way that it approaches the
Totally
world
agree.
genuinely changes the way that I've thought about certain things. I won't spoil it now that I'll get into it, but like lifestyle changes I've literally made because of these movies. So just hearing you talk about that theater experience, movies are so powerful. And that's, I think, when we sometimes get so picky about certain movies that come out or certain things that happen. I think this is why, because we have had those experiences of can be life-changing. This can be transformative. And sometimes it feels so antithetical to that we deserve to demand more in what our art is, how it moves us and what it shows us. So glad you shared that. We'll talk more about Studio Ghibli. I won't get too far into it. But my favorite theater experiences, I'll go for
Absolutely.
two. And I think...
Only two? What is this?
I know. I did meet my goal. I set a goal to see 25 movies in the theater last year, and I did achieve that goal, and I narrowed it down to two, so be proud of me. And I think why these two movies are narrowed down, I think makes a lot of sense. The first being Friendship, which this is basically the Tim Robinson, Paul Rudd comedy movie.
Yeah.
And it was unlike anything I've ever experienced watching a movie, to be sitting in a movie packed next to my brother, who I know loves this style of comedy and everything like that. And to be in a theater that I know everyone there, and the movie starts, and as soon as it shows Tim Robinson's face, he doesn't even do anything. It just shows his face, and we all just bust up laughing. Like, there's nothing better. And so the whole movie, just laughing together, community, and again, it's just one of those experiences that I hold very close to me of like, that was very special. That was very good to be able to experience that with the community. And so much of this is something you're supposed to experience with other people, which bleeds right into my number 2, and that's Weapons. I was having a conversation with my brother who just watched this as well. And as a movie, I don't think I like Weapons that much, but the way it's structured and the way it like teases its thrills or its scares, seeing that in a theater was so fun. Like everyone just freaking out together. And it's one that's like episodic where it shows different, it'll like show a thing throughout and then it'll show another perspective, so on and so forth. And so to have those spaces to breathe and to all to like sigh, like, oh, you've got to be kidding me, was just so fun. It was so fun to just be like, all right, here we go again. What do we got next? I was going to say, will I revisit that movie? Doubtful. But the experience, wouldn't trade it. It was so fun.
Yeah, I'm really actually excited that you said Weapons because after you're finishing talking about friendship, I almost said, I think the best genres to watch in a crowd are comedies and horrors.
Exactly.
Like, I think those are, comedies are funny when everyone is laughing with you, and horrors are more thrilling when everyone is holding their breath.
Yep. That just reminded me, I talked about on the pod, so I won't go over it a lot, but Rental Family was kind of same, where like the theater was just good, where everyone laughed at the right times and everyone just kind of engaged well. That made it a better viewing experience, but that's a good movie, so it's not quite the same. But yeah, Friendship and Weapons for sure on that one. Your favorite scenes of the year?
There was a couple moments in Superman that as a, because we haven't talked about this much, but I am a massive comic book nerd. I have loved superhero films since I was, even shorter than I am now. And I have always been a DC stan. I have always been, I'm such a big DC fan. I love just the DC characters. I adore that IP. Wonder Woman was life-changing for me, so I was so excited for Superman. I do have one for Sinners that is the clear obvious scene, but I'll let you take that one. But yeah, again, I don't know if this is recency bias, but that sequence with Neytiri in Fire and Ash that was pretty freaking great. It was pretty cool. Visually, it was very, very fun. The 3D definitely made an impression. I keep replaying certain parts of it over and over again. It was pretty, that's right. So that, I would have to pinpoint exactly which scene in Superman, but there was a couple that just made me feel like a little kid again, and I was digging it.
First thing I'll mention is Train Dreams. This is a Netflix release, so anyone can go watch Train Dreams if you haven't. And I think there's a few parts of this that I think I just like the cinematography is basically what I'm getting at. Literally the first scene is very, very cool. I won't spoil it, but the way that it's done practically is really cool. There's trains in this movie, and I think there's some like wide shots of the Pacific Northwest and this train going and like looking out through a window that took my breath away. Like, wow, that is just such a good shot, so beautiful. But the ending scene of this movie, he's in an airplane, and it's just this reflection that I won't spoil it is very, very, like I said, beautiful and gets you thinking. Love Train Dreams, so shout that one out. This is another one, perhaps similar to your Neytiri scene. I understand it's not everyone's cup of tea. I have just grown to love it for the last few years, and it is in Mission Impossible. There is a stunt sequence, and I'll go very briefly. The last few Mission Impossible movies, the way that the scripts are written is, okay, what are the really cool action set piece stunts that we're going to do? Okay, now let's write a plot to integrate those. And it works for me. I understand why it doesn't work for people. But one of the scenes in this involves a submarine. And, it's very long, but, being in this enclosed space and the scale of everything and the water and everything around with it, and knowing that Tom Cruise is doing this, like this is all practical, just left me just in absolute awe, just like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And it's one that I'm almost afraid to go back and watch just because it was so incredible when I saw it and so amazing and left such an impression seeing it on the big screen in the movie theater and doing all these things that I'm worried if I rewatched it, I'd be like, oh, that wasn't as cool as I remembered, because I just remember being overcome with just like the sense of scale and urgency, and like he always makes it, but I'm like, oh my gosh, is he not going to make it this time? Like, this is crazy. So I have
I'm
to shout
convinced
that one
Tom
out.
Cruise wants to get himself killed on camera.
Like, literally, there's moments you're thinking, how did he do this safely? Like, this is insane.
Yeah.
This is, I don't understand. So, Mr. Movies,
Well, in
bringing the
Rogue
movie magic
Nation,
for
like
me.
when he's freaking hanging onto the side of a plane, in Rogue Nation, when he's
Right.
hanging on the side of the plane, there's literally just one strap connecting him to the plane.
Right.
Like, he's not harnessed the heck out of him. They don't have a backup parachute on him. He has one strap connecting him to the plane. Wild.
And like, if a pebble or a rock were to like dislodge and hit him, it could
Right.
cause some serious issues. Or a bird, like that could kill him. Yeah, so just wild. So the last scene,
Wild.
I'll shout out from Sinners. There's a
Yes.
name for this sequence. I can't remember it, but it's essentially this musical sort of amalgamation of every culture and every type of music in the culture of R&B and jazz and rock, and just sort of starting from African tribal music to gospel soul to rock and roll to folk and blues, and everything in between was just incredible. The way that it all melded together, the way that it's just circling all these different, your ancestors, and just this, oh, I get chills just thinking about the history of music and putting that out there in this mainstream vampire movie, right? Ryan Coogler, this Black director, knew exactly what he was doing, exactly what he wanted to show. It's one of those scenes that's just like, it feels like he was a director just to direct that scene. Like, it is that important, that impactful, just to be able to, just to feel, again, the cultural impact, the beauty of it all, the under recognition that many of those cultures or those influences don't get in our modern day musical culture. It was just stunning when I first saw it. Just incredible. Again, a little bit one of those things I'm like, I almost don't want to revisit it just because I know how that impacted me seeing that in the theater, and know I've listened to the song quite a number of times. Very, very cool. So Sinners is awesome, but that scene is just perfection.
It's got to win Best Original Song, right? Like, it's got to.
Unless K-pop Demon Hunters wins.
That's the thing. The only other thing I can think, giving it a run for its money, is Golden. But we'll see. I know you also put this one. This is kind of for people who have been listening to the podcast for a hot minute. I saw this and it kind of made me chuckle. Your favorite podcast discussion.
Yes,
now,
yes.
I've had a lot. I've really enjoyed, chatting movies with you. And I wouldn't say this is my favorite episode that we've done, because I do love, again, a lot of the arts and charts that we've done. But man, being able to unload after those Star Wars sequels was chef's kiss. Because I pretty much watched a lot of those I watched the last two back to back and then came to the podcast. And I was just so speechless by the amount of garbage I had just seen. And that one was a blast. That was so fun to just talk it out, for me to just be like, what on God's good earth is piece of garbage? So that was probably, just short and sweet, but I had a whole lot of fun talking the Star Wars sequels with you.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that this whole conversation of just demanding our art be taken more seriously at times as definitely came out in that conversation. That's a good one I didn't even think of, but yeah, that's a great answer. I wrote down two. One I'll just briefly mention, because again, obviously I feel a type of way about this, but our Sing Sing and Shawshank Redemption episode. Obviously, I just adore Sing Sing and love talking about it and the things there. But the one I'll talk a little bit more about is our Arts vs. Charts, which was where we pulled 3 movies together to talk about: The Matrix, Ghost in the Shell, and I Saw the TV Glow. And I think what made that my favorite was the way that we really deconstructed some of the themes and the messaging. And you did not like I saw the TV glow, and it was just a fun conversation for me to really work with you to kind of understand that and to hear perspectives and kind of talk about how, in some ways, I saw the TV glow as almost a movie where it's like it really just makes you think about things differently. In the same way with The Matrix, right? That's the whole point of The Matrix is what you're experiencing isn't real, like reality is this other thing. And so as we just
Right.
got deep into that on the podcast and off the podcast, I think it just opened up a lot of really interesting conversation that I feel like I got to know you a lot better, and I think helped connect us a little bit better on our relationship and how we talk through things and understand things. So it was a good time. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. Because I did a lot of because I remember watching it and being like, I wanted to like that movie a lot. And I did not like it. I did not care for it very much. And I grappled for probably a solid week about why. Like,
Right.
why did this not work? I was so excited. I was so into it. And a lot of my thinking was done in text with you. Like, a lot of my thinking out loud, a lot of my grappling with it, a lot of me being like, I don't know, maybe it was this. And like, yeah, no, I think I agree. I shared a lot of personal stuff with you that week.
Right.
And yeah, I feel like a lot of my just wrestling with that film was done in text with you. So yeah, couldn't agree more.
Awesome. Moving right along to favorite score, another one I did not narrow down. I'll go through briefly these three. Marty Supreme already talked about. One battle after another, really kind of frantic piano, jazz, cool things going on. And then Twinless has some really cool stuff going on. But I think if I did have to choose my favorite score this year, I would actually choose Materialists, which is a movie that is widely hated. A lot of people do not like it. Directed by Celine Song. It has a 2.9 on Letterboxd. So again, people did not like this movie. I think because it set itself up as a love triangle movie between Dakota Johnson, Chris Evans, and Pedro Pascal, and that's not what it is. Now, I will acknowledge that Past Lives, which is Celine's song, came out 2 years ago, is a much better movie and is a really, really, really good movie. But I do think, I'm not here to defend Materialist, I'm just talking about the score, but I am defending Materialist. I think it's better than people give it credit for. But the score is incredible. And there's one moment in particular where they're like driving through the countryside and it's like a sunset and it's just a sweeping score that is beyond beautiful. I sent it to you once, I believe. So shout out Materialist, but that I think has to be my favorite score of the year.
Yeah, this one I felt a little in over my head just because I was like, man, I'd really have to mull this one over, and I'd really have to go. Basically, I was like, I don't think I've been exposed to enough films to really be able to say this. We've mentioned Sinners. I would also say, and this one again, take this with a grain of salt, and I'm not saying necessarily this is my favorite score. I'm just maybe an aspect of the score that I liked. I did appreciate how the score of Superman did have a lot of homage to the 70s Superman score. It's iconic, sure. John Williams, and there's a lot of the score that is, definitely giving hints, giving homage to that. And again, as such a DC fan, as a Superman fan, that there's parts of that just kind of made me giddy. So again, that's not my definitive answer, but just kind of as a little shout out, I thought that was really that was cool. That was a lot of fun.
Favorite non-2025 release. So I didn't include some of the ones that I saw like in January that were 2024 releases. Because there were a few like A Different Man or Brutalist or I'm Still Here that were all 2024 movies that I all really liked. And it also is tricky because we're getting ready for our Studio Ghibli podcast and eventually a Tom Cruise podcast. So it's like a lot of the movies that I hit this year just aren't, we'll either talk about or hard category. I saw Magnolia too. That was really good. But I think if I did give an answer, I would probably say Jerry Maguire, which we've talked about. I know you're like, oh, I don't know that I like that much, but I sat with Jerry Maguire for a couple of days.
I thought it was fine.
there were some things I hoped for as I was watching, and as I sat with it, I was like, you know what? I think I really liked how that resolved, actually. So I'm going to stick with Jerry Maguire. I really had a great time watching that movie, and I'm sure it'll come up more as we talk about Tom Cruise in general.
Yeah, kind of same thing. I already mentioned Princess Mononoke, once in a lifetime theater experience. Okay. I also thought about some other Ghiblis that I've seen, but I didn't want to spoil our Ghibli episode. But one that I watched that just kind of readily came to mind when I was looking through my letterboxd and stuff too, I really dug Atomic Blonde.
That's right. I remember
That
you
was a
talking through that.
movie, yes, that was a movie that, like, just, and again, this is also like movies that we've already talked on the podcast aside, like I also adored Wolf Children and so on and so forth, but Atomic Blonde was one that I think I just needed like a good down and dirty action film, and I was just like, yes, we've got action, we've got espionage, we have got Charlize Theron being hot. That was all I needed from this movie. And no, I just, it was a movie that I paused halfway through and I was just like, I'm having so much fun. Like, I can't remember the last time I had this much fun watching a movie, but yeah, it was a blast. I had so much fun with Atomic Blonde. So much fun.
Good. All right, that brings us to the big one. Favorite movies of the year. I did do a top 5. I think you did a top 3. But why don't you take it away with your favorite movies of the year?
So I will say this one got bumped. So honorable mention, K-pop Demon Hunters. Call me basic. I don't care. I thought it was super fun. I still have been listening to the music. My Spotify Wrapped was very embarrassing because there was so much of this on there.
Right.
Is it the best movie of the year? No. Is it close to the best movie of the year? No. I had so much fun with it though. So that's why I was like, is it the best of the year? No, not even close. Like, it's not even in the conversation, but I had a lot of fun with it. So sort of honorable mention, because it got bumped, and I'll mention.
I'm surprised it got bumped.
I'll mention why in a minute. Yeah, well, I saw
Never
a movie
mind.
today that changed everything.
I know I got bumped now. It took me a second. I'm there. Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm doing 5. You can include it.
So then, okay, my top 4. And then next, or do you want to go back and forth? Well, no, because you have 5 and I. Sure. It's fine. I'll just wrap up my others. Do you want to do that? Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'll do 5 and 4. 5 is Train Dreams, which I've talked a lot about. Again, it's on Netflix, so anyone go watch it. It's good. And 4 is Sinners for me. Loved Sinners.
My number 3 is Sinners. Yeah. I mean, we've talked about it a little bit on the podcast, but it came out before we really started. We might have to do some sort of a Sinners versus something before Oscar season or something, because I also just got a kick out of this thing. I was surprised that it was a vampire movie, first of all. Especially just because of the name Sinners, and then with a lot of the trailer and stuff, I expected it to almost be like possession or demon or something, and I was like, oh, it's a straight up vampire flick.
Right.
So yeah, I think Sinners is super fun. I like the setup, I like the characters, I like the music. Yeah, I had a blast with Sinners.
You're right. It's, came out in March, so it's been almost a year since I've seen it. I mentioned we should watch it. Well, I think I'll probably at least watch my top couple before the Oscars, just to refresh a little bit. But that's a great shout. 4 and 3. So I'll do my 3 now, which is Twinless. Mentioned it a few times, haven't talked through it in great depth, but I mean, here and there, as I've said various things, but I love Twinless. It's so good. It was 4.5 first time I watched it, rewatched it with my wife, and I did bump it to a 5, and I'm solidly at a 5. I love that movie. I'm very interested to see what you think about it.
Me too.
Could be good, could be bad. We'll have to just see when you do see it.
Right. My number 2, I'm giving it number 2 because of recency bias and because I love 1 so much. Fire and Ash. I mean, that movie did something to me, man. Again, could be recency bias, could be that I saw it in IMAX 3D, could be that I had tempered expectations. Like, I don't know. I dug the hell out of this film. I liked this movie so freaking much. Like I said, I was there were multiple times I sat in the theater being like, am I about to give this a 5-star? Like, am I going to walk out and give this thing a 5-star? I'm sitting at 4.5 right now, but that could change because I loved Fire and Ash. I loved it.
Well, I'm gonna go see, is this thing on this next weekend? It is kind of getting close to my birthday too. Maybe I'll just go find some time to go see it. Yeah, maybe you've convinced me. Maybe I can trust it. We'll see. We'll see. My
Now
number
I'm
two.
worried that you're gonna come back and be like, why? Why did you recommend that? Why? What is going on?
Well, it wouldn't be the
I
first
hope
time
that's not
that
the
happens
case.
to either. The first time it happens to either of
Fair
us during
enough.
this, or it'll happen again many times, I'm sure. My number two is Marty Supreme. So I already mentioned, talked about it. Really worked for me. Really, really enjoyed Marty Supreme.
This next one is kind of in the same ballpark as K-pop Demon Hunters, where I'm like, is it the best film of the year? No. It's a movie that is probably a 3.5 or 4-star if I am like being like, I guess just looking at quality, but because I am who I am, because I am a DC, fan kid, because I love this IP so much, Superman. Saw that opening night, packed theater, IMAX. I got it on 4K for Christmas. I loved it. It made me happy. It made me giddy. It was the way I had a friend describe it to me, and I couldn't agree more. It is Superman. It's a Superman movie made by people who love Superman. And I feel like I have not seen that in a hot minute. But this was, this was the Blue Boy Scout. This is, it's Superman. And I feel like the actor and the director and everything, this was people who love Superman. And as someone who loves Superman, that just made me really happy. So Superman is my number one. Not the best movie of the year, but my favorite.
Like I said earlier, movies are supposed to make us happy and inspire us, and a lot of different things work for different people. But I do think Superman is a movie that is put together in a way that shows respect for us, also shows that love for the person. So I'm glad you shouted out Superman. I was going to shout it out after, but my number one, you could call me basic as well. The Oscar favorite, many people's favorite of the year, probably highest on Letterboxd rating. That is One Battle After Another, Paul Thomas Anderson. We went in depth on it. Another one I'll probably revisit in the next month or two, but I was floored from the first 5 minutes. My jaw was on the floor that I was like, I cannot believe that this movie is coming out today and doing what it's doing right in front of us. So felt like it was just the movie for our time and for our generation. And lots more conversations on one about another, so I won't belabor the point. But I did want to shout out just in general. It felt like there were lots of hopeful films this year, and that made me, I really gravitate to those a lot of the times. So you have your Rental Family, your Life of Chuck, Superman, Ballad of Wallace Island. Those were all movies, again, that I just felt like you just watch and you just finish and you're like, oh, that was very nice. Some of those being kind of a warm hug of a movie. Others just kind of being like, yeah, there is hope in the world. There is happiness. There is good. Shout out to that. Hope we still keep getting that, because we need that. We need it more than ever. So again, I thought this was a really good year for movies. I had a really good time. Obviously, things to be worried about in the movie industry, things to be worried about in real life. Yeah. But I think movies are there for us. Movies are things that we're passionate about. We're gonna keep talking about them. We're gonna keep watching them. And it is a funny thing too, like just talking randomly right now, I guess. I love movies so much. I love watching movies so much. But it's not something I do like every single day. I did watch like over 100 movies this year, which is probably the more movies I've watched in any other year. But, if you think about it, it's like a movie every 3 days or so. And I just feel like movies have this place in my life right now of like, when I want to feel something, or I want to think deeper about something, or I want to, just kind of take myself out of the sort of routine or day to day. So, there's times when I go like a week or so without watching a movie and I'm like, I need to get back into it. But I don't know, just chatting. I think that it creates such an opportunity for discussion and feelings and looking outside yourself, and excited to see what 2026 has for us, and excited to talk a little bit more about 2025, obviously, as Oscars come. But great year for movies, great year to start a podcast, and I'm happy to be doing it.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. I love movies, and I've been loving this experience with you. Normally, this is the part of the show where I ask Adam, what we're watching, but we're kind of still shaking off the holidays a little bit and figuring it out. We are going to be doing we're still also kind of figuring out what we're going to do with Ghibli. We initially were going to do a top 5. We have thought about breaking it down into 3 episodes and covering like 7-ish movies per episode. So weigh in on social media. Let us know in the comments. Maybe I'll run a poll. Which would you guys prefer? Would you prefer just one solid top 5 episode? Or we have loved Studio Ghibli, so we have thought about wanting to dive in more, but Studio Ghibli for sure. And then we're kind of figuring out a little bit more what we're going to do with the Oscars as well. So I would say if you're looking for something to watch, top Oscar contenders and Studio Ghibli, as well as we will be doing a Tom Cruise show at some point too. So those will the few things to kind of keep you guys busy.
Perfect.
Anything you want to add?
I think the dog is ready, and it's a great shot, and I think watch those movies. Life-changing. And until next time.
Bye.
See ya.